In this video, I teach you how to use borders in CSS and what is margin and padding and their syntax. Look at this image. Imagine this is an HTML element. Padding goes around all four sides of the content. And you can target and change the padding for each side with CSS. Margin is the space between the border and next element. The space outside the border between it and other elements is the margin. Now we're gonna explain borders. You can apply CSS border to almost any HTML element. Nowadays, most of the time borders are used to put emphasis on text, tables, and headlines. But it's your choice to put a CSS border wherever you want. You just need to understand how to do it. In this video, I'll explain how you can use CSS border styling properties to your advantage. And in this video, I teach you 4 properties to work with borders: border style, border width, border color, and border radius. The border style property specifies what kind of border to display. I create 10 paragraphs to set border style to each of them. So I go to Visual Studio Code and write border style for each of them. I select each paragraph by class selector. Dotted define the dotted border. Dashed define the dashed border. And solid define the solid border. Next, double define a double border. And next, group. Group defines a 3D grooved border. The effect dependent on the border color value. And next is range. Range defines a 3D ranged border. And next is inset, border style, inset. Inset defines a 3D inset border. And next is outset, border style, outset. Outset defines a 3D outset border. And next is none, border style, none. And next is hidden, border style, hidden. You can use none and hidden values to remove border of an element. Now I go back to the browser and refresh, and you see difference between border styles. The border style property can have from 1 to 4 values for the top border, right border, bottom border, and left border. In CSS, there are also properties for specifying each of the border, top, right, bottom, and left, like this. Border, top, style, dot, border, right, style, solid, enter, border, bottom style, dot, and border left style, solid. Now reload the browser, and you see that I set different border style for each side. The border width property specifies the width of the four borders. The width can be set as a specific size or by using one of the three predefined values, thin, medium, or thick. The border width property can have from 1 to 4 values for the top border, right border, bottom border, and left border. Now I add border width for paragraphs. 5 pixel and dashed border width 3 pixel, a solid border width 10 pixel. Now I reload browser, and you can see the width of the borders are changed. And next property is the border color. The border color property is used to set color of the four borders. The color can be set by name, hex, RGB, or transparent. This property can have from 1 to 4 values for the top border, right border, bottom border, and left border. If border color is not set, it inherits the color of the element. Now I add border color for paragraphs. Border color red, border color yellow, and solid border color green. And reload browser, you can see new border color. There are many properties to consider when dealing with borders. To shorten the code, it's also possible to specify all the individual border properties in one property. The border property is a shorted property for border width, border style, and border color. So I create a paragraph with border property. In the solid class, I comment previous codes and I write them in shorter format. Border 10 pixel, solid type, and green color. Go to the browser and reload. I forget to say some things about border style. You can write your border style for each side of an element in shorter format. So in this class, I comment previous codes and write them in shorter format. Border style. Top border is dotted, right border is solid, and bottom border is dotted, and left border is solid. Go to browser and reload. It's a mix of 4 border styles, so I write it for mix class. Mix border style. I copy and paste it. Uncomment this code and remove this line. Go to browser and reload, and you can see mix border here. And the last property is border radius. The border radius property is used to add rounded border to an element. So I want to add this property to solid class and this paragraph. Border radius 5 pixel. Reload browser and you can see result. I increase it 15 pixel and you can see the border is rounded. Now I want to explain margin and padding. So look at this picture. Margin is one of the outside of block element, while padding is one of the inside. Using the margin to separate the block from thing outside it. Use padding to move the content away from the edges of the block. First margin shorthand property can be used to determine a space around all sides of an element. In addition to the main margin property, there also are properties for specifying the margin on individual side of the element. The property called margin is shorthand property, which can be used inside of individual properties. You can specify 1, 2, 3, or 4 values in the shorthand property. So I add shorthand margin for solid class. Margin 20 pixel, 30 pixel, 40 pixel, and 50 pixel. And I write for individual sides in dotted class. Margin top 10 pixel, margin right 5 pixel, and margin bottom 7 pixel, margin left 10 pixel. Reload the browser and you see margin property effects on solid and dotted class. Now I explain shorthand margin property. They will be assigned to the paragraph element. Top margin size is 20 pixel, right margin size is 30 pixel, bottom margin size is 40 pixel, and left margin size is 50 pixel. And learning CSS padding will be as easy as ABC. It will help you to improve your understanding of spacing between elements and put you ahead of the game. You know the CSS padding property is used to adding a space between the content and its border of an element. CSS has properties for specifying the padding for each side of an element. Padding top 10 pixel, padding right 20 pixel, padding left 5 pixel, and padding bottom 8 pixel. Reload browser and you see padding effects on this element. And the property called padding is the shorthand property, which can be used instead of individual properties. You can specify 1, 2, 3, or 4 values in the shorthand property. Padding 50 pixel for top, 20 pixel for right, 10 pixel for bottom, and 5 pixel for left. And reload browser. There is an important tip about margin and padding. Margin accepts negative values, but padding doesn't accept negative values. Save and reload. And you see the effects of negative value on margin property. And in the next video, you will learn how to work with text and fonts.